She waited until after the funeral to tell me her baby called me Aunt because his father was my dead husband. I remember the exact sound of the dirt hitting the coffin, hollow, final. My hands were frozen inside black gloves, even though it was June. People cried around me, whispered prayers, passed tissues. I just stood there, numb. After 10 years of marriage, my husband was gone. A car accident, instant death, no goodbye. We'd been trying for a baby for years, 3 rounds of IVF, 2 miscarriages, and then suddenly nothing. A silence in my body I couldn't explain. He used to hold me at night and say, "No matter what, we're still a family." I believed him. I believed every soft lie he ever told me. 2 days after the burial, my sister came over, just to talk. She brought her newborn, a baby I hadn't met yet, because he was born during my husband's funeral week. She sat across from me on the couch, looked me in the eye and said, "I need to tell you something before the lawyers get involved." I laughed. I actually laughed, because I thought it was about the will, the house, the car. But then she said it, just like that. "The baby's his. He's yours too, in a way." I stared at her for a full minute. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. My ears rang so loud I thought I was going to pass out. She started crying, those performative, high-pitched sobs she used to fake in high school when she got caught, sneaking out. I asked her, "What the hell are you talking about?" And she said it again, slower this time, like she was doing me a favor. "He was the father. We didn't mean for it to happen, but now that he's gone, you deserve to know." My world collapsed a second time, but worse than death was the betrayal. My husband, my only sibling, and a child, innocent, unaware, born from a secret that was never meant to see the light. And then she pulled out the papers. She wanted to negotiate, not apologize, not explain, just leverage the pain. She said she was entitled to part of his estate for the baby's sake, for his bloodline, and that she was prepared to go public if I didn't agree. $25 million. That's what she said with a straight face, holding a baby in one arm and betrayal in the other. I was the older sister, always, by 5 years, 2 inches, and about a lifetime of responsibility. When our parents divorced, I was 12 and she was 7, and suddenly I wasn't just her sister, I was her second mom. I packed her lunches. I brushed her hair. I lied to our mom when she snuck out in high school. I defended her, protected her, cleaned up every mess she left behind like it was my job. She was wild, emotional, beautiful in that careless, chaotic way that made people want to save her. And me, I was the stable one, the boring one, the rock. I studied, worked, paid my way through college while she crashed at friends' places and posted modeling shots on Instagram. I loved her anyway, and when I met Daniel, my husband, she said she was happy for me, said I deserved something good for once. He was older than me by 6 years, calm, steady, a quiet kind of successful. He made his money in real estate and never talked down to me like the men I dated before. He was kind, soft-spoken. He listened. She adored him. That's what she said. She called him Dan the Man and joked that he was too serious, always asking her if she had a plan or a job, but she laughed it off. They were never close. At least, not that I saw. We got married in a small vineyard. She was my maid of honor. She cried during her speech and said, "I've never seen my sister this loved." I believed every word. I hugged her so tightly that night, whispered, "Thank you for being here. You're all I've got." And she replied, "Always." After that, she drifted. She said weddings made her feel weird, said she was figuring herself out. I didn't push. I sent her money when she said rent was late. I helped her get a used car. Daniel said I was too generous. I said, "She's my sister. It's not charity, it's family." And when she got pregnant, out of nowhere, I didn't question it. She said the father was a one-night stand who bailed. She didn't want to talk about it. I didn't ask. I just sent her baby supplies, hired a doula, and planned a baby shower. I even offered to be in the delivery room. She said no, said it was too intimate. I felt hurt, but I respected her boundaries, like I always did. Meanwhile, Daniel and I were trying for a baby, 3 years of heartbreak, IUI, IVF, medications that made me cry for no reason, and through it all, he held my hand and said, "We're okay, even if it's just us." I believed him. He died 3 weeks before her baby was born. A rainy Tuesday. A semi-truck swerved. No chance to say goodbye. The police knocked on the door, and my whole world collapsed. She texted me later that night. "I'm so sorry. I can't imagine what you're feeling. I thought she meant it, but now I know. She didn't just steal from me after he died. She stole from me long before that, with my eyes wide open." The first thing that didn't sit right was the baby's middle name, Daniel. She hadn't told me before. It was on the little card taped to his hospital crib. Lucas Daniel. I remember staring at it, heart pounding, trying to smile. I asked, "You named him after my husband?" And she shrugged, real casual, like it was no big deal. I just liked the name. Don't overthink it, but I did. I started thinking a lot. Then came the photos. Side by side, her son and my late husband. Same eyes, same crooked grin, same little dimple on the left cheek. Everyone said, "He looks so much like your side of the family," but I couldn't unsee it. I kept telling myself it was grief, that I was projecting, that trauma was messing with my brain. Still, I started asking questions, gently, carefully, like, hey, are you sure you know who the father is? Or, did you ever reach out to him? And she'd always shut down fast. Don't start, okay? It's complicated. Or, worse, why does it even matter? The distance between us grew. She avoided calls, took days to reply to texts. When she did show up, she looked exhausted and edgy, like she was holding something heavy she couldn't afford to drop. But I kept showing up, kept loving her, because that's what I always did. Then I noticed money was missing. Daniel had left me everything, his estate, savings, stocks. I was still in the process of transferring accounts and finalizing trust details, but one day I logged in and saw a withdrawal I hadn't made. $30,000 gone. When I called the bank, they said it was processed through a joint account I didn't remember approving. I called the estate lawyer. He said he'd look into it. Meanwhile, my sister stopped answering entirely. No calls, no messages, radio silence. Then she posted a photo on Instagram, a new apartment, baby in one arm, designer bag on her shoulder, caption, new beginnings. Comments full of hearts and you deserve this. I felt sick. I drove to her place. She wouldn't open the door. I knocked for 10 minutes. When she finally appeared, she looked guilty, but she still tried to smile. I asked her about the account, about the money, about the baby, and she said, "You're not thinking clearly. Grief is making you paranoid." That line hit like ice water, gaslighting, straight to my face, from my own blood. She stood there in designer boots I probably paid for and told me I was the crazy one. I left without another word, drove home in silence, cried for hours, and then the letter came. Legal envelope, formal language. Her lawyer, not her, stating that, in the interest of the child's well-being, she was requesting a financial settlement in recognition of biological paternity and estate entitlements. The number, $25 million, that was the moment I knew this wasn't just betrayal, it was war. I sat on the floor of my bedroom, envelope wide open, staring at the words like they were written in fire. Biological paternity, estate entitlements, $25 million. It didn't even sound real. It sounded like fiction. A bad script, but the signature was real. The stamp was real. And worst of all, the betrayal was undeniable. I didn't cry, not at first. I felt nothing, absolutely nothing, just this ringing emptiness, like someone had scooped out my chest and left an echo. She wanted to sue me, my sister, the same girl I held through nightmares, the one I defended in court when she got caught with stolen credit cards at 19, the same girl who called me crying after her abortion and said I was the only person who'd ever stayed, and now she was threatening to take the only thing I had left of Daniel, the life we built, the future we dreamed of, the security he left me. She wanted to burn it to the ground for a payout. I called her once. She answered. On the second ring, no hello. Just, so you got it, no shame, no regret. Just that same cold tone she used when she got caught lying as a teenager. I asked her, why? And she said, because I have a child to protect, and you have money. I asked, how long were you sleeping with him? She didn't answer, just silence. Then, does it matter? Yes, it mattered. It mattered. Because I had been married to him for a decade. Because we were trying to have a baby while he was sneaking off to create one with my sister. Because he looked me in the eyes every night and told me he loved me, while building a secret life with the one person I trusted most. I broke, right there, on the phone. I started shaking, screaming, not even words, just pain. I said, you could have told me before he died. She said, I wanted to, but you were already so broken. No, she didn't tell me because she wanted the estate, the sympathy, the control. She waited until he was dead, until I was raw and disoriented, until she could manipulate the narrative, and then she weaponized a child she named after him, after the man who betrayed us both. I hung up, vomited, collapsed. I called my lawyer, sent everything, swore I'd fight, not just for the money, not just for the estate, but for my truth, my dignity, my name. Wasn't just grieving a husband anymore. I was grieving a version of my life that never really existed, and it nearly destroyed me. Nearly. I disappeared. No warnings, no tearful messages, no dramatic confrontations. I just stopped replying, changed my number, moved to a different city under the guise of taking time to heal. I rented a small apartment with no memories in it. No photos, no ghosts, no echoes of who I used to be. I didn't post, didn't update anyone except my lawyer. I let them talk, let her twist the story however she wanted, let her call me dramatic, selfish, cold. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain, because I'd finally learned the people who love you don't need proof, and the ones who don't, no amount of truth will change their minds. I stopped answering calls from family. My aunt texted, she's just scared. She has a baby, you. No, I didn't respond. My cousin said, maybe he really loved you both. I blocked her. I'd spent my whole life making excuses for people who hurt me. This time I chose peace. My peace looked like silence. It looked like black coffee at 5 a.m. and long walks without speaking. It looked like deleting shared playlists, burning old journals, canceling the nursery wallpaper I had ordered before the accident. It looked like grieving the child I never had, while that child, his real child, was alive with someone else. She sent me one last letter, handwritten, said she forgave me, that grief makes us cruel, said we were still sisters and that Lucas would grow up wanting to know you. I read it once. Then I fed it to a match and watched it curl into nothing. There was no confrontation, no final showdown, just a woman, me, standing in a quiet apartment, learning how to exist without the two people who once defined her world. It took everything in me not to retaliate, not to send the screenshots, not to expose her, but I knew my silence would haunt them more than my voice ever could, because people like them thrive on chaos, and I refused to give them more of me to destroy. Instead, I rebuilt in the shadows. I worked, I saved, I changed my estate plans. I left everything to a foundation for women recovering from betrayal and financial abuse. I created legacy out of wreckage, and I didn't tell a soul. Healing didn't come like a wave. It came like dust settling, slow, quiet, almost invisible at first. I started waking up without dread. That was the first win. No more staring at the ceiling, reliving conversations I never wanted to remember. I got out of bed, showered, ate, not because I wanted to, but because I could. That was enough for a while. I began freelancing again, small projects, designing logos, reworking brand kits, things I could do without emotion. But over time, I found myself caring, staying up late, lost in creative flow, not because I was trying to distract myself, but because I was creating again. For me, I adopted a cat. Her name's Vesper. She doesn't cuddle much, but she sits near me while I work, watches me like she knows I've been through fire. Sometimes I talk to her, tell her everything I never said out loud. She blinks slow, like she understands. I found a grief group online, not the cliché kumbaya type, just women like me, betrayed, angry, tired of pretending they were okay. We shared stories without judgment. One woman said, "Losing a person is hard. Losing the version of them you made up in your mind, that's harder." I wrote that on a post-it and stuck it to my mirror. I started therapy again. For real this time, not to survive, to rebuild. I stopped asking why they did what they did, started asking why I let myself accept less for so long, why I felt guilty for being angry, why betrayal made me feel like I was the one who failed. Eventually, I stopped referring to Daniel as my husband. I started calling him what he became, the man I was married to. That shift was small, but powerful. It gave me distance, language that didn't trap me in old vows. Financially, I recovered. I won the legal battle, quietly, strategically. She didn't get a cent. The court didn't even entertain her claims. Turns out forging documents and lying under oath doesn't hold up in front of a judge. My lawyer said, this was never about the baby. It was always about her. He was right. But my biggest win wasn't the money. It was walking through fire and coming out without bitterness. I let go of revenge. I chose silence over spectacle. I chose rebuilding over burning down. Now, I sleep, deep, dreamless sleep. I cook. I dance in the kitchen. I don't flinch at kindness anymore. And when people ask if I'm married, I just smile and say, not anymore, and thank God for that. It happened at a charity gala. I wasn't even supposed to be there. A client had invited me last minute. I almost said no, but something in me said go. It was hosted by a nonprofit supporting single mothers. Ironically, I wore black, sleek, unapologetic, hair pulled back, no wedding ring, no more pretending to be someone else's something. Halfway through the evening, while sipping a glass of champagne and pretending to laugh at someone's story, I saw her, my sister, standing by the dessert table, holding Lucas. He was bigger, now probably around 1.5. His curls looked just like Daniel's. She spotted me instantly, froze, then looked away like it didn't shake her, like seeing me didn't remind her of everything she tried to erase. She approached a few minutes later, alone, no baby in arms, just her, heels clicking against marble, face arranged in that forced smile I knew too well. She said, "You look good." I nodded, said nothing. Then she said, "He asks about you, Lucas. He points at your picture sometimes." I blinked. "You still have my picture up?" She shrugged. "You're his aunt." I looked her in the eyes, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small in front of her. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like the older sister cleaning up a mess. I felt done. I said, "No, I was your sister. You ended that." She swallowed, hard, still trying to control the narrative, still trying to pull strings that no longer existed. "I was desperate," she said. "You don't know what it's like being alone." I laughed, just once, quietly. "No, you don't know what it's like being alone. You were never truly alone. You just burned everyone who tried to love you." She blinked fast, like she wanted to cry but didn't know how. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I turned to leave. "Wait," she said. "Aren't you even curious if he remembers you?" I turned back. looked her dead in the face. I remember enough for both of us. Then I walked away, not because I was cold, but because I was finally warm enough on my own. No child, no husband, no sister, just me, whole, scarred, awake. Sometimes people ask if I ever think about Lucas. The answer is yes, but not with sadness, not even with anger, just clarity. He's innocent. He didn't choose the betrayal that created him, but I didn't choose to be erased from my own life either. I used to wonder what I did wrong, if I was too blind, too trusting, too desperate to believe I could finally have a family. But now I see it for what it was: theft disguised as love, manipulation dressed up in sisterhood and marriage vows, lies so carefully layered they looked like loyalty. They didn't just break my heart, they rewrote my history. They forced me to question every memory, every laugh, every night I thought I was safe. That kind of grief doesn't scream. It whispers, it sinks, it stains. But I scrubbed it out. I found joy again, not in grand gestures, but in small choices. Saying no, locking my accounts, laughing without asking permission, sleeping without nightmares, wearing red lipstick and not apologizing for taking up space. I stopped explaining myself to people who never cared to understand me in the first place. People say family is everything, but I've learned something deeper. Peace is everything. And if keeping it means cutting blood ties, then so be it. I didn't lose a sister. I shed a parasite. And Daniel? I don't speak his name anymore. Not out of pain, out of irrelevance. He's no longer a character in my story, just a cautionary footnote in a chapter I've closed. I built a life they can't access, a truth they can't spin, a future they can't sabotage. They didn't just lose me. They lost the only person who ever truly loved them. And I lost nothing worth keeping.